Hey there friends and enemies, Jopo here again, and today we got a Dragon's Dogma 2 video with a breakdown of the Trickster Vocation. I'm still narrowing down which vocation I plan to start the game with, so this will be a good first look so I can make a decision on which one I'm trying to rock, and let's just jump right into it.
Dragon's Dogma 2 offers a wide variety of playstyles depending on what vocation you select. Most of these are the kinds of archetypes that you'd expect: melee sword fighter, speedy dagger wielding thief, ranged archer, and spell slinging mage. And some are hybrid vocations like Mystic Spearhand and Magic Archer that combine elements
the combination
of one
ones
with
look
another
awesome
for a completely new style of play. But what of the Trickster Vocation? It was revealed as part of the Dragon's Dogma 2 showcase back in November, but little has been shown of this unique class beyond that quick 45-second look and a short description on the Dragon's Dogma 2 website. Fortunately, as part of our visit to Capcom, we got to sit down and play with the Trickster for about an hour. And I can confidently say that this is a style of gameplay unlike anything I've ever seen in an open world action game.
That's awesome. I definitely want to try something new and different, so the Trickster Vocation might be for me.
To start, the Trickster is essentially a pacifist. Their chosen weapon, a ceremonial censer, does little to no damage when it's swung at an enemy. Instead, the purpose of attacking is to build up aggro and pull an enemy's attention towards you. To that end, you also have a special ability called Suffocating Shroud that sends out your smoke in a wide area and draws a large amount of enemy attention towards you. So, the question is, why would you want to get a whole group of enemies swarming on you if you can't actually damage them? See, that's where the word Trickster comes into play. By using the Trickster's unique skill, Effigial Incense, you create a simulacrum, or a clone for simplicity's sake, that enemies will perceive as the real you. This clone has its own health bar and will disappear if it's killed, but you can also teleport the clone to you while it's still alive with the press of a button. This way, you can basically kite enemies wherever you want, as long as you keep their aggro and keep your clone alive.
You're trying to send them off the edge of maps or something?
Environmental advantage, which is super important because the Trickster shines the brightest when there are cliffs, uneven surfaces, or
that's what I was thinking.
Of the environment that can be used to your advantage. The Trickster has two abilities designed around creating surfaces that aren't really there, but appear real to enemies. The first, Tricky Terrace, creates a cloud that can be placed off a ledge that the enemy will perceive as real solid ground. And the second, Elusive Divider, will create a wall of smoke that you can see through, but the enemy cannot. The final piece of this puzzle is the Visitant Aura, a technique that essentially allows you to make an astral projection that you can freely move around to scout the landscape for as long as your stamina will allow. You're super vulnerable while controlling the projection, so using Elusive Divider to give yourself some cover while using it in the heat of battle is a good idea. Crucially, you can float off ledges, ascend or descend at will, and even call your clone to wherever your projection currently is. I'm sure you can probably see why that might be useful.
Oh my god! Watching them flop off the map is hilarious.
The real value of the Trickster comes into view. Before getting into a combat encounter, you can create a clone with Effigial Incense, use Visitant Aura to scout out an area for enemies and look for any sort of environmental hazards, like a cliff for instance.
I think a lot of people will like this one.
So that it hovers over said environmental hazard, place a false floor underneath it with Tricky Terrace, then lure enemies close to the clone and use Suffocating Shroud to send all their aggro towards the clone, and then watch with glee as enemies throw themselves off the ledge in an effort to get at you.
This music is perfect. What the hell?
Now,
that's hilarious. I don't know how useful that's going to be against every enemy.
It's going to be practical in every single situation, which is why the Trickster is also equipped with some other tricks up their sleeves. First and foremost, they are a support class, relying on and substantially buffing the strength of their pawn party
that makes sense.
So that they can do most of the heavy lifting. One such buff is Aromatic Resurgence, which supercharges your party, making them hit a lot harder. While I was playing for gameplay capture reasons, I had to make a mental note not to use this buff because my pawns would kill all of my foes before I got a chance to show off any of the more technical tricks of the vocation. The most powerful spell I saw of the
pretty interesting
was Dragon's Delusion, which takes some time to cast, but brings forth an illusion of a dragon that terrifies any enemy that sees it, even large ogres, bringing them down to their knees, giving your pawns ample opportunity to do big damage. Since most of the Trickster's other skills seemed well suited for dealing with small to mid-sized enemies, this was a really nice addition to see.
Yeah, I think that could be very interesting.
Deal with the bigger and badder enemies. The Trickster was not an easy vocation to figure out in just
yeah, it seems pretty complicated, but it could be a lot of fun.
To fully grasp the aggro system, avoiding pulling too much aggro and not having a way to get away from the enemies I just attracted, but once it clicked, I found it to be a uniquely satisfying vocation that brought to mind one of the core tenets of Devil May Cry's combat. It's not just about killing every enemy in the room, but how you kill every enemy in the room.
Yeah, that makes
an intentionally
sense.
underpowered vocation that's designed to encourage creative thinking, to solve difficult combat problems in ways beyond just swinging a weapon or hurling a tornado at it. And it's one that I'm very excited to experiment more with once I've got my hands on the full game.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Dragon's Dogma in March. I don't think that the Trickster is for me necessarily, but it does look very interesting, and I think you're going to see a lot of really cool clips from people doing very interesting things with the vocation, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun for a lot of people. Maybe I'll give it a shot. I don't think it'll be my starting vocation just because I feel like it's going to take me so long to get the hang of it that I might be a little bit frustrated before I really jump into the game and can really maximize my enjoyment as I'm hunting different creatures, as I'm trying to bring down big bosses and all that kind of good stuff. So that's why I think I'm going to pass on the Trickster from the beginning, but it's definitely one that I'll probably rock on a playthrough after I've got the hang of the game down and I'm trying out new things. So yeah, it looks awesome. I really think it could be a lot of fun. Some of the different design decisions with it, too, are pretty unique sounding. Like, it's not something that I've seen in another game, especially in RPG, where you have, again, a pacifist character who is not doing damage themselves. And I think there's a lot of people who will find that to be a playstyle that's really, really enjoyable. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm glad we got a better look at the Trickster, to be honest, because I think a lot of people will jump into the game and try out this class and then be frustrated because they're not the ones doing the max DPS. But you could build out some insane pawns, maybe recruit some pawns from your friends who are really overpowered and buff them and let them do a lot of the work while you're essentially playing tricks on the enemies and leading them to their deaths. So I really think that could be, again, an interesting playstyle, but it's got to be one that you're fully aware of when you jump into it and understand that you're not going to be doing pretty much any damage at all by yourself. So anyway, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. Do you think you'll be maining the Trickster when the game comes out, or do you think other vocations look like they're going to be more fun? I think I'm going to start with the Wizard and then maybe move on into one of the more advanced classes, the combo classes. So that's just a personal preference of mine, but I'm still kind of open to a lot of different ideas. The Archer sounds good. A lot of the other classes, the vocations sound like they could be a ton of fun. So I'm really looking forward to the game. I want to test out as much as possible once it does drop. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, helps me out tremendously. Shows you want to see more Dragon's Dogma 2 content from me. I'll be fully diving deep into covering the game once it does launch in March. Have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.